Good morning. Today we'll go with polymers. So, what is a polymer? I think you might have seen that you might heard about these polymers. Polymers are very important material. Every day we are using this kind of polymers for your daily use, and we can find in this rubber, plastic, resins, and in adhesives and adhesive tapes. So the polymers are very useful for the human being, and we are using in everyday life. And what is the polymer means? The word polymer is different. Poly means many, and mers means small parts or units of high molecular mass. So each molecule of which consists of a very large number of single structural units joined together in a regular manner. So in other words, polymers are the gained molecules, means larger molecules of high molecular weight, called as macromolecules, which are built up by linking together with a large number of small molecules, So it is called as polymer is a big molecule which is made up of smaller molecules, and generally it is called as macromolecules, generally called as macromolecules. So this is done, the how you can combine all these small molecules and then making it giant molecules. That process is called as polymerization. The process is called as polymerization. So polymerization is nothing but the reaction by which the monomers combine to form polymer. The reaction by which the monomers combine to form polymer is known as a polymerization. Monomer is nothing but single molecule. Monomer is nothing but a single molecule which is combined together and then forms as a macromolecules, formed combined as a macromolecules, and this process is called as polymerization. So on the basis of thermal response, the polymers can be classified into two groups. The polymers can be classified into two groups. One is thermosetting polymers and thermoplastic polymers. Thermosetting polymers and thermoplastic polymers. Thermoplastic polymers, they can be softened. So while discuss one by one, and thermoplastic polymers is nothing but they can be softened easily and as well as plasticized. The name itself says the thermoplastic polymers are they can be softened as well as plasticized repeatedly on the application of thermal energy. So repeatedly on the application of thermal energy, these material thermoplastic polymers are can be softened and as well as plasticized. Yeah. Without much change in the properties if treated with a certain precautions. So without changing their properties, these materials or these polymers can be softened easily and as well as plasticized, and they are often found by addition polymerization. They often mean there are different types of polymerization methods. So the addition polymerization is used to form these certain kind of thermoplastic polymers, and by using this additional polymerization leading to long linear chain polymers with no crosslinks. They soften readily on heating. As we discussed, these thermoplastic materials are softened easily on heating because secondary forces between the individual chains can break easily by heat or light or pressure. So with this, we can easily break the link so that it can make soften, because the bond is break. The bond is our secondary forces between the chains is break, so that the material can become softened. The material can become softened. They can be reshaped and reused from the waste. So these thermoplastic polymers can be reshaped or can be reused also. Thermoplastic polymers are reshaped or reused from the waste, and these are usually soft in nature. As we discussed, these are all soft and also plasticized easily, and they are usually soft, weak, and less brittle. They can be reclaimed, means reproduced from the waste. They can be reproduced from the waste, and they are usually soluble in suitable solvents. They are usually soluble in suitable solvents, and adjacent polymer chains are held together either by van der Waals forces on dipole-dipole interaction or by hydrogen bonding. So in this case, the hydrogen bonding or dipole-dipole interaction, So these adjacent polymer chains can be held together with the van der Waals forces. And during molding, there is no change in the chemical composition occurs. During the molding process, there is no change in the chemical composition occurs, because there is only change in their, they can be softened and as well as plasticized, that's all. They cannot change the chemical composition. It won't change the chemical composition upon heating. These are generally tough materials. These are generally tough materials. So examples of such polymers are polyolefins and nylons, linear polyesters and polyethers, polyvinyl chlorides, PVC pipes. We can call it as PVC pipes, right? So pipes are generally made up of PVC, polyvinyl chloride, sealing wax, etc. So all these called as thermoplastic materials. Thermoplastic materials. I think you'll be knowing how much it is useful in every day-to-day life. In every day-to-day life. And we'll move to the next, thermosetting polymers. One more kind of polymers based on the thermal response. As we discussed, based on thermal this response, we have two kinds of groups. One is thermoplastic polymers and the other one is thermosetting polymers. So thermosetting polymers are nothing but some of the polymers which undergo certain chemical changes. So whereas thermoplastic polymers cannot undergo this chemical change. Whereas thermosetting polymers, they can undergo the chemical change on heating and convert themselves into an infusible mass which cannot be melted, infusible mass which cannot be melted mass. Okay, so the converting themselves into an infusible mass. The curing or setting, the drying process involves chemical reaction. The drying process involves chemical reaction leading to further growth and cross-linking of the polymer chain molecules and producing the giant molecules. So here, these thermosetting polymers, upon heating, they changes their chemical position, chemical composition can change. They are often formed by condensation polymerization. As I told you, this thermoplastic polymers are formed by the additional polymerization process, and these are all thermosetting polymers are formed by condensation polymerization also, which leads to the three-dimensional network structures, which can be formed into three-dimensional network structures. They do not soften on heating. As we told, the thermoplastic materials can be softened, but thermosetting materials cannot be softened. It will be a change in the chemical composition. And on prolonged heating, however, charring of polymers is caused. So on prolonged heating, the carbonation can be happened. The charring of polymers can be caused. They cannot be reshaped and reused like thermoplastic polymers, which are they can be reshaped and reused, but thermosetting polymers cannot be reshaped and reused. They are usually hard when compared to thermoplastic materials. Thermoplastic polymers, they are soft in nature and weak as well as a little brittle. But these thermosetting is opposite to that, and they are usually hard, strong in nature and more brittle in nature, and they cannot be reclaimed from waste. So as we told, this cannot be reproduced or reshaped, so it cannot be reproduced from the waste. Due to strong bonds having inter and intra chain cross linking, these are all insoluble in almost all organic solvents. Where thermoplastic polymers can be soluble in some of the solvents, but here thermosetting, it cannot be soluble in all the organic solvents. And adjacent polymers chain are held together only by strong covalent bonding. Whereas in that, dipole-dipole interaction or hydrogen bonding can be happen in the thermoplastic materials, but thermoplastic polymers. Whereas in this thermosetting polymers, we have a strong covalent bonding. Between the chains. Whereas during molding, further polymerization and cross-linking occurs. So if you see some examples of this thermosetting polymers, we can see that epoxy resins, silicones, and bakelite, these are all will be called as thermosetting polymers. Next, we move on to the ceramics. So one more material which is you can call as ceramics. Ceramics are classified as inorganic and non-metallic materials. So it is inorganic and which doesn't contain any carbon content, and also non-metallic materials which doesn't have any metallic materials that are essential to our daily lifestyles. But we are using ceramics as well. Ceramics and materials engineers are the people who design the processes in which these products can be made, create new types of ceramic products, and find the different uses of ceramic products in everyday life. What is ceramics? Ceramics is nothing but it's generally made by taking mixtures of clay, earthen elements like pottery. Pottery is nothing but it's a ceramic material, and taking mixtures of clay, earthen elements, powders, and water, and shaping them into desired forms, like crockery and pottery things can be made up of ceramics. Once the ceramics has been shaped, it is fired in a high temperature oven known as kiln. So once the ceramic is formed by using these kind of powders and waters and earthen elements, and this has to be heated in a particular oven called a kiln. So often ceramics are covered in decorative waterproof paint like glazes. So glazes is applied on the surface of these kind of materials to in order to provide it waterproofing. So they, because of the, it is made up of clay, kind of porous structure will be having in the pottery kind of materials. So it to prevent the water leaking, these surfaces are painted, which is called as a glaze. We can call it as glaze. So paint like substances known as glazes, so that it cannot be leaked. Next, amorphous ceramics. What is amorphous ceramics? Amorphous ceramics are nothing but called as glasses. So a ceramic material which is an inorganic product of fusion that has cooled to a rigid condition, without crystallization. It has a non-crystalline or amorphous structure. So if you look at this bottom one, crystalline is a linear and which has the orientation in a straight line. Whereas in the amorphous structure, we don't have the structure in a particular orientation. It has its own different orientations. It is not in a linear form. So it has the amorphous ceramics glasses has the non-crystalline or amorphous structure. It has a non-crystalline or amorphous structure. These molecules in a glass change their orientation in a random manner throughout the solid material. So it has changed its orientation. That particular molecules change its orientation in the glass amorphous materials. So these are called crystalline materials, and this is called amorphous materials. The structure of molecules in the amorphous. Whereas glass optical fibers. So glass optical fibers are constructed of tiny strands of glass that are bundled together inside an application specific sheeting like stainless steel for durability and high temperatures. They are attracted to certain photoelectric sensors and guide light from the sensing head to the target. So it is act as a guide light. It has acts as a guide from the target sensing head to the target. So glass optical fibers have an impressive temperature range. Glass optical fibers have an impressive temperature range as low as -40 degrees centigrade to plus 480 degrees centigrade. That's why because of this, doesn't have any electrical components. They merely act as a channels. These fibers acts as a channels. Means are light guide between the target and the sensor. So from the target to the sensor, so it will be act as a guide channel. Next, oxide glass. So this glass optical fibers are made up of alumina with a composition of alumina 90% as well as germanium oxide as 10%. So this is called as oxide glass. Where alumina is 90% and germanium oxide is 10%, which is used in the fiber optic applications like communication networks and all. So extremely clear glass and used for the fiber optic waveguides in communication networks. And here the light loses only 5% of intensity if it travels at 1 kilometer of glass fiber. If it travels through in the glass fiber up to 1 kilometer, it loses only 5% of intensity of the light. It loses the 5% of intensity of the light. That's why these are widely used in the communication networks like fiber optics. So what are the factors which are making you to use in the fiber optics are, it is really low loss, that is which I told you that 0.2 decibels decibels per kilometer. So we'll be losing this much of light intensity, and about this 1550 nanometer wavelength of the light. So we'll be losing only less light intensity per kilometer. So in the same wavelength range, the material dispersion is also very low. So it will not disperse much. This light will not be dispersed in the even at the wavelength range of 1550 nanometers, which means that light pulses do not spread very much. They are very pretty much resist to the electromagnetic interference. These are resistance to the electromagnetic interference, and available at low cost, and available at low cost, and are available at low cost. The combination of all these factors, has led to the ability to build, to produce fiber optic systems that span thousands of kilometers and are able to transmit many terabits per second on a single fiber strand. So this is how the even nowadays in the internet we are using that fiber nets and all those, because of the loss is very less. In this fiber nets we are using the at a low loss, Next, CERMET. What is a CERMET? So first three letters of CERMET, if you take CER, CER stands for ceramics and MET stands for metals. So if I combine these ceramics and the metals, it forms as a CERMETs. So generally why we CERMETs are made is to serve the purpose of ceramic properties and as well as metals properties. So metal properties and ceramics properties put together, combiningly we will form as CERMETs. So how these CERMETs are formed? So it's a composite material which are composed of ceramic materials and metallic materials. Ceramic materials and metallic materials. A CERMET is ideally designed to have the optimal properties of both. Both in the sense it's ceramic properties as well as metal properties. So ceramic properties are such as high temperature resistance, hardness, and those of a metal such as ability to undergo plastic deformation. So high resistant temperature and hardness can be obtained from the ceramic materials, and high undergo the plastic deformation can be through metal. So these properties can be combined and will be getting from the CERMET, a composite material. A CERMET is a composite material. Next, what is composition? Of course, as I told you that it is made up of ceramic materials and as well as metallic materials. Ceramics are tungsten carbides, molybdenum borides, and aluminum oxides. Are these kind of ceramics are used, and with the metals kind of iron, cobalt, nickel, and chromium. Iron, cobalt, nickel, and chromium. Next, what are the properties of this? Property: high temperature resistance, hardness, high strength, ability to undergo plastic deformation, superior wear and corrosion properties, more resistant to high velocity impacts, lightweight. The use of ceramic implants extend the life of the hip replacement parts. So nowadays the health sector also they are going to use the ceramic implants, and better thermal shock resistance, moderate thermal conductivity, and applications. If you look at these applications of these CERMETs, we can find in various fields. One is the manufacturing. In the manufacturing field, will be used as a resistors, capacitors, and other electronic components. Also, vacuum tubes and for joints and seals. Spacecraft we use as a shielding. And bioceramics, as it will play an extensive role in the biomedical materials, and transportation as a friction materials for brakes and clutches, and armor, lightweight ceramic projectile proof armors. In the field of nuclear storage of nuclear waste, for storing of the nuclear waste, as well as the fabrication of engines and nuclear reactors. So for fabricating of the engines as well as nuclear reactors, we are going to use the CERMETs. CERMETs as having the properties of ceramic materials as well as metallic materials. So these can be used in all these kind of areas. Next, we'll move to the composite materials. We can move to the composite materials. In the present rapidly developing industrial era, there is a need for the materials with specific requirement of properties. Because some of the properties very much required. That those properties are very specific to that particular application. So, and it is impossible for any single material that will serve that particular requirements. So, in order to fulfill this, the composite materials have evolved. The development of new materials that are nothing but composite materials have begun. So composites are nothing but, it can be defined as in many ways. For simple understanding, we can define that it is a material which consists of two or more materials with significantly different properties in a microscopic level. So it is a combination of two or more materials. It is a combination of two or more materials. That's why it's called as composite. Composites are nothing but it is a two or more materials combined together to get these specific requirements. So here generally the base material is called as a matrix. The base material is called as a matrix, and constant which is mixed to this matrix is called as a reinforcement material. So if you look at this, matrix is nothing but the base material which you want to have, and to this base material you are going to add the one more material called as reinforcement material to improve the properties to the base material. Base material having, say for example, aluminum is one. If you use the aluminum as a base material, and I can use the reinforcement, and I can use the reinforcement to improve the aluminum properties, so that it can form into the composite materials. So the base material is called as a matrix, and constant which is mixed to matrix is called as a reinforcement material. In some composites, along with these matrix and reinforcement, fillers are also used in addition. So other than this matrix and reinforcement material, as I told you, it is a composite is nothing but one or two or more materials is combined to form a one material, that is composite material. So here, if I use other than the reinforcement material, I can use a fillers as well. I can use fillers also. Next, see the classification of composite materials. So the composite materials can be classified into two groups. One is the based on the fiber, based on the matrix. So in the matrix materials, maybe of metal type, or maybe of ceramic type, or maybe of polymer type. So these are all mixed with the spot of reinforcement material. It may be of particulate, or it may be of fiber, it may be of laminates. So composite materials based on the fiber, particulate composite materials, fiber reinforced composite material, laminate reinforced composite materials. Based on the matrix, metal matrix composites, we can call it as ceramic matrix composites, we can call it as polymer matrix composite materials. So they based on the matrix which we use, matrix material in sense base material. So base material is, it may be of metal, or it may be of ceramic, or it may be of polymer. So to these base materials we are going to use the reinforcement. If I use the particulate or particles, then particle reinforcement materials we can call it as. If I use the fibers, then it is called as fiber reinforcement. And if I use the laminates, then it is called as laminate reinforcement materials to this Butler base material. So this is the composition of composite materials classification. And according to the syllabus, you will be having one is the metal matrix composites and the fiber reinforcement composite materials. So we'll discuss those two. First, we'll discuss the fiber reinforced composites. Fiber reinforced composites are nothing but which is basic matrix materials are reinforced with the fibers. So fiber composites consist of matrix reinforced by the long and short fibers. Small fibers are called as whiskers also, and long fibers are generally continuous. And short fibers are discontinuous fibers. So these short fibers, which are first figure which shows the short fibers, which are called whiskers also, we can. So this is called fiber material is reinforced in the base material. So fiber reinforced composites are nothing but in that matrix in the sense base material. The base material is reinforced by the long and short fibers are called as fiber reinforced composites. So long fibers are generally continuous. See here, these are called long fibers which are in continuous nature from starting to the end. See here, there is no cutting of this material. So this is called discontinuous fibers. Which are called as short fibers as well. So it can be of two types. One is a long fiber reinforced composites and short fiber reinforced composites. When we manufacturing a fiber reinforced composite, things to be taken care of are dimension, position, quantity, properties, and bonding of the fibers and matrix. See here, dimension in the sense what length it should be. Is it a continuous or short length? Position means orientation. Is it be a straight line or is it be inclined line? So these are all to be taken care of. Or 45 degrees orientation, and the quantity, how much you are going to add, how much fibers you are going to reinforce into that material, and also bonding of the fibers. So bonding, how we are going to bind these two matrix and as well as the reinforced material. What material you are going to use this. So these are all to be taken care of by before making the fiber reinforced composite. One is the dimension, position, quantity, and the bonding of the fibers and matrix. So how to bind these fibers and matrix, that is also to be taken care of. So fibers are generally anisotropic. These fibers may be unidirectional, cross-woven, or random. So the orientation may be unidirectional, means one direction, or it may be cross. It can be inclined at an angle of, or it may be a random orientation also, or it may be random orientation. Generally, long fibers are used most due to their load carrying capacity is very low at the ends compared to the other. So generally, long fiber reinforced composites are used because of it having the load carrying capacity is very low at the ends, compared to the other materials. And examples of these matrix materials include epoxy resins, metal like copper, aluminum, steel, and ceramics like calcium aluminum silicate. And examples of fiber means matrix material which you can use, copper I can use, aluminum as a matrix material I can use, or steel as a matrix material I can use, and ceramics also can be used as a matrix. See here, if I as I told you that based on the matrix, the classification of composite materials, we may have a metals, ceramics, and metals and ceramics and polymers. So as I told you that metals and metals, it can be as copper, aluminum, steel, and all. And ceramics also I can use, and like calcium, aluminum silicate, and polymers also I can use as a base material or matrix material. And what are the fiber reinforced composites examples? In sense, I can use the glass fibers. Glass fibers can be mixed with this particular matrix materials, or carbon fibers also can be reinforced with this particular matrix fibers, and banana fibers. Many are there. So it can be reinforced into these materials. Next, we'll move on to the metal matrix composites. Metal matrix composites means sense here matrix in the sense is the base material which you use. Means metal as the base material. Metals I can use the aluminum, copper, and all those. So as the name only specifies that the metal matrix composites commonly called as MMCs. MMC means metal matrix composites. Uses the metal as a matrix material or base material. So to this base material, we can reinforce either particulates or fibers or laminates. So matrix materials such as aluminum, magnesium, titanium, iron, tungsten, and nickel are commonly used. So matrix materials such as aluminum, magnesium, titanium, iron, tungsten, and nickel are commonly used. So MMCs are better at high temperatures than polymer MCs. Means metal matrix composites are better at high temperature than polymer matrix composites, and they are mainly reinforced with the metals and metal oxides to enhance the thermal and mechanical properties to meet the needs of design. So these metal matrix composites reinforced with the metals and as well as metal oxides to enhance the thermal and mechanical properties. And by adding the silicon carbide fillers, as we told that this can be metal matrix can be reinforced with any other materials also, not only that reinforcement materials, we can add the fillers also. And by adding silicon carbide fillers to this metal matrix composites, the properties like strength and elastic stiffness, thermal and electric conductivity can be enhanced. So by adding silicon carbide fillers, we can improve the properties like strength, elastic stiffness, and electrical conductivity. So MMCs are generally consist of bulky metals like steel and aluminum to increase their properties, So generally these consist of like steel and aluminum. Steel and generally maximum aluminum will be metal matter composite we can find applications. And advantages such of these is high specific strength. High specific strength because aluminum is having the high specific strength as well as steel, and modulus by adding low density metal oxides like aluminum and titanium dioxides. So by adding this low density metal oxides like alumina and titanium oxide, we are going to get the high specific strength. And graphite is used as a reinforcing material to lower the coefficients of thermal expansion. So in order to reduce this coefficient of thermal expansion, the graphite is used as a reinforcement material for the MMCs, for the metal matrix composites. The application of MMCs are in the space vehicles, military, and transportation. So it can be used in a different, as I told you that space vehicles, it has to be like weight is the constraint here. So aluminum composites are used widely in the particular space vehicles as well as transportation and all those, because the transportation is also weight is the criteria. So here if you look at this diagram, metal matrix composites can be categorized or classified into these three. So if I use the particles, as the reinforcement material, then it is called as particle reinforced metal matrix composites. The name is particles reinforced metal matrix composites. Means the base metal is material is, that is nothing but matrix is a base metal. These metals are reinforced with the particles. Then it is called as particles reinforced metal matrix composites. Similarly, the base metal to the metals, I can reinforce the short fibers or whiskers. Whiskers in the sense a short length, which are discontinuous. So those are all called as short fibers or fiber reinforced, short fibers reinforced or whiskers reinforced metal matrix composites. And also we can use the long fibers also, that is called as continuous fibers. In this case, these two come under this particular fiber reinforced metal matrix composites, means short fiber or long fiber. When I use the reinforcement material, see, when I want to make a composite material, one is the matrix, the other one is the reinforcement. What is the matrix I am using? The matrix is what is the base material I am using? So is it a metal or a ceramics or a polymers? Generally, this matrix materials can be used as metals, ceramics, and polymers. So these matrix materials, I may add as a reinforcement materials as in the form of particles, or in the form of fibers, or in the form of continuous laminates, or in the form of laminate. Laminate in the sense it's a kind of sheet of paper. It is a kind of sheet. If I use the sheets as a reinforcement material, then those are called laminate reinforcement material or laminate reinforcement metal matrix composite. Laminate reinforcement metal matrix composites. So these are the based on the reinforcement material, metal matrix composites are classified like this. Okay. So with this I can end this session.